कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरवरधारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव जय राधा माधव जय राधे जय यशोदानंदन यशोदानंदन जय राधे जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि हरि बोल। जय गुरु गोविंद की जय जय समस्त वैष्णव जन की जय। हरे कृष्णा माता जी, थैंक यू।
हरे कृष्णा, थैंक यू माता जी। अनीता माता जी।
हरे कृष्ण माताजी। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जय शलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले सभ्यं रूपः कादं मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिने इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देव गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वन्दे ॐ श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तमं सजीवं सद्वैतं सवधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादं सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च।
Let me recite the last prayer, Mataji. You can practice along with me. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutha Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Okay. It's recorded, so you can try practicing on it. Continue.
हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी कृष्णभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Jai. Thank you. Sindhu Mataji.
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लादलाददायिने हिरण्यकशिपूर्वक्षः हिरण्यकशिपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानकालाये हितो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा हितो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यानि ततो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यानि ततो नरसिंहा बाहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा बाहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरेणकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव करकमलवरेणकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गाम् दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गाम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय विघ्नविनाशा जय नरसिंहदेव विघ्नविनाशा जय नरसिंहदेव जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनन्तदेव लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनन्तदेव जय भक्तवत्सला जय नरहरि भक्तवत्सला जय नरहरि जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
Jai, thank you. So looks like all of you are prepared for Narsimha Jayanti on March 11th, I think, right? I think it is March 11th. So all of you are prepared in some sense.
May 11th.
Narsimha Aarti is
March?
ready.
Mataji, May 11th.
May 11th. Yes. Yes. Thanks for correcting me. Okay. Jai. All of you are joining. You're able to see my screen?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sharing Vedabase. So let's summarize what chapter 2 so far. What do you remember from the discussion? Of course, we started with Arjuna's indecision, which we discussed last week as well. And then Krishna is responding to each of Arjuna's query. So how many queries has Krishna answered so far? Do you remember? And what are those queries? Anyone can respond.
Like Arjuna was compassionate for his family, but he said it's not required, and that is what he spoke about in chapter 2 in last few verses that we had in last class.
What is that knowledge called?
Sankhya
What?
Yoga, ma'am.
Sankhya Yoga. What is Sankhya Yoga dealing with?
Soul.
Soul and body. It's a knowledge of soul, and it's analytical study of soul and body. Okay, so so Krishna is saying no need for that kind of compassion, because why? What was the response?
Because soul is eternal, Mataji.
Soul is eternal, so we don't have to be so compassionate about something that is not eternal like the body. So he's reminding Arjuna that soul has these characteristics, like it cannot be burned, it is eternal, it's primeval, ever existing. So there's no need to be so compassionate for something that is eternal, which is never going to be dying anyway, right? So why cry for something that will never be destroyed? And then from Sankhya Yoga, we moved on to what was the last few verses we discussed, where Krishna answered the second query of Arjuna? What was the second query that Arjuna had?
Why does he want to kill his own relatives, blood relatives?
So what was the second doubt that Arjuna raised?
But what's the benefit of enjoying the kingdom when
There's no enjoyment. He
Correct.
said there's not going to be any enjoyment. Everyone earns their material life. They do whatever they do in their material life because they want to enjoy it with your family. But once the family is all killed, then who do I enjoy it with? So in that connection, Krishna's introduced karma kanda to him, right? So from verse 31 all the way till verse 37, Krishna is talking about karma kanda. Karma kanda is also called as sakama karma yoga. Okay, sakama means working with attachment to the results of the work. Okay, so he's saying even if you're working or fighting with a desire for these heavenly planets, even in that case, there's no loss. Because if you die in this battle, then you'll definitely get heavenly planets. So there's enjoyment there. Or if you win this battle and you win the kingdom, then also there's enjoyment because you're going to be ruling over the material kingdom. So either which way, even if you win or lose this battle or die in the battle, there's going to be enjoyment. Okay, so Arjuna and for the second doubt of Arjuna, where he said there's not going to be enjoyment, Krishna is saying there's even if you follow karma kanda or sakama karma yoga, even then there's definitely enjoyment. Okay, now what Krishna is going to do is he's moving on to karma yoga or nishkama karma yoga. Okay, so let me break up chapter 2 for you. I'll just share one simple slide to see how this whole chapter is broken. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, yes, Mataji.
Okay,
Yes,
so
Yes,
from verse 11 to verse 30, it's Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, knowledge of soul and body. Okay. Now from 31 to 37 is Karma Kanda. Okay. Or Sakama Karma Yoga, where karma is performed with attachment to the result. Okay. Now the rest of the chapters or verses, this is what is going to, from verse 38 to 53, you're going to go through Nishkama Karma Yoga. So work but detached to the result, without attachment to the results of the work. So that is Nishkama Karma Yoga. It's also called as Buddhi Yoga. Okay. And finally, to the end of this chapter, Krishna is going to talk about how a liberated person or a sthita pragna, how does a liberated person, what are their qualities? Okay, so he's going to end this chapter talking briefly on Bhakti Yoga or the characteristics of a person in complete pure Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so this is how, so verse 38 onwards, we are now going to look into Nishkama Karma Yoga. Okay. Let's read verse 38 then.
Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Translation: do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so, you shall never incur sin. Hare Krishna.
So far, Krishna spoke about fight for the results, right? Fight because you'll enjoy. Now he's making a transition to say, fight without any attachment to the results, right? fight without considering what happiness, distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. Okay, without considering any of the result. And by doing so, you will never incur sin, right? If you remember, previously also, Krishna had dwelt into not incurring sin. Let me see where. Slain. Okay, sins open.
33,
In
Mataji.
verse 33, if here Krishna is saying, however, you do not perform your religious duty by fighting, then you will certainly incur sin for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as fighter. Here Krishna has mentioned that how you will get sin by not fighting and not doing what is dharma, you will definitely get sin, right? So how is Arjuna getting sins here? So as Arjuna had mentioned in the first chapter, there's destruction of dynasty, and as a consequence, there's the women get degraded. There's a lot of unwanted progeny that's going to come, and as a result of that, all the projects, the development projects, all of that is going to be stopped. So all of that considered, there is definitely sin, even for the fact that Arjuna does not want to fight, and Krishna is saying there's definitely going to be sin even if you don't fight, because there all the reactions of not fighting, that is also going to be creating sins, right? Now, further to that context, Krishna is saying, then how do you, while you're doing actions, how to not get sin? That's the answer over here. This is Nishkama Karma Yoga, not being attached to the results of the work. What are the results of the work? The work can give you some kind of happiness or distress, or it can give you some kind of loss or gain, victory or defeat. Krishna is saying, don't be attached to all these results, and in that way, you'll not incur sin. Okay. So here further, Krishna is explaining. Can Vidya Mataji, you read from here, purport?
Purport. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or loss, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction of good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in ordinary course of activities.
Thank you,
It is-
Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
So this is where Krishna is saying fight because Krishna is desiring this battle. There should be no other consideration other than the desire of Krishna when any action, when you're doing any karma. So here Krishna is saying, you should do it because I desire that this fight happens. So that's the only reason that Arjuna should consider then to fight. Let's go to verse 39.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
एषा ते विहिता सङ्ख्ये बुद्धिर्योगे त्वा इमं शृणु बुद्ध्या युक्तो ययः पार्थ कर्मबन्धं परस्यसि. Translation. Thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pratha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from bondage of works.
So Krishna is explaining now the word yoga. Does anyone know the meaning of the word yoga?
Union.
Union. Okay.
It's Hare Krishna Mataji. Yoga
Krishna.
yujyate anena iti yogaha say. So joining of Jivatma to Paramatma.
Connection. Yes. So the word yoga, it means connection. Okay. And we are connecting with Krishna with different process of yoga. And Krishna is saying, so far I've given you Jnana Yoga. So jnana is what? Knowledge, right? So the process of acquiring knowledge, if the object of that knowledge is Krishna, then even the process of acquiring knowledge can take us to Krishna. So jnana yoga can also be around focus on Krishna, right? Or jnana yoga or Sankhya yoga can also take one back to Krishna. But yoga also needs some kind of sense control, right? We need to control our sense. So, but when Arjuna is saying, I don't want to fight, he's not, he has completely lost control of his senses. He's surrendering to his senses. He's saying, I'll be put in a lot of pain, distress if I fight. So I don't want to fight, right? So, in other words, Krishna is saying that he should surpass his surrender of senses, surpass that sense gratification that because of this I'll be put in happiness or distress, and just go and fight. So Krishna has already given the knowledge of Jnana Yoga and explained how we should see every jiva as a Paramatma, or the soul within. So in that sense, he still needs to fight. And then he spoke about Karma Kanda also. In Karma Kanda, he somehow has reaffirmed that, even by the process of Karma Kanda, Arjuna still has to fight. It's better for him to fight. Now, similarly, now he's going to the next phase where he's talking about Buddhya Yukto, right? He's saying Buddhir Yoge Tva Imam Shrunu. Buddhir Yoge means Buddhi is intelligence and yoga is to work in without fruitive results. So, in other words, when you're using your intelligence to surrender to Krishna, okay, that is called Buddhi Yoga, right? Even you can connect with Krishna with your intelligence. And when you do that, when you surrender to Krishna, when you serve Krishna and you're using your intelligence to understand what kind of karma one has to do and what is the mood of surrender, when you use your intelligence to use surpass all these other small things around you, then that becomes Buddhi Yoga. Okay, so even Karma Yoga can be Buddhi Yoga. If your karma is centered around working for Krishna, you're not working for fruitive results, then even Karma Yoga can become Buddhi Yoga. Okay, so Krishna is again telling Arjuna that now listen as I explain in terms of working without fruitive results. Okay, so let's go to the next verse,
Sumit Prabhu.
verse 40.
It's
Hare
written,
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Verse 40. Nehabhikarmanaşosti pratyavayo na vidyate sva alpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Translation. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So, in this path, in what path? In the path of working for Krishna and working for surrendering to Krishna, there is no loss or diminution, right? How do you understand this? There's no loss and or diminution. So, Krishna is saying even a little advancement made in this path can remove one from greatest type of fear. So let's understand. So Krishna is saying any activity done in Krishna consciousness or in Buddhi Yoga as an offering to Krishna, right? There's no loss, right? So think about this. We have spent so many years getting our material degree, right? We spent from childhood all the way to youth. We have spent so many years just studying to get that one degree and then post graduation. But what happens to that degree when we leave behind this life, when we finish this life? Is there any value for that material degree in the next life,
no, Mataji.
No Mataji.
right? So, so then, but Krishna is saying anything done as an offering to Krishna. However, there's no loss and diminution. So, in other words, he's saying you might, spend this much time studying Bhagavad Gita. So what happens since you have spent some time, you may or may not have understood Bhagavad Gita completely in this lifetime. But when you somehow start reading Bhagavad Gita next life, you will find that you'll understand these concepts very quickly, because you don't have to go from square one of understanding Bhagavad Gita. The knowledge is already eternally imbibed. So your any service that is done in Krishna, whether it's reading Bhagavad Gita or getting the knowledge or any small donation that you made or helped a devotee or served some Vaishnavas around, the credit continues not just in this life but in the next life also. So any work done in Krishna consciousness will bring us back to Krishna consciousness in our next life. Right? So there's no loss. And even after losing this life or this body, there's no loss, because the credit of performing this Krishna conscious activities continues even in the next life. And Krishna is saying this is going to save us from the greatest kind of fear. Now, what could be the greatest kind of fear for a human being? What do you think?
Death, Mataji.
How is death? It's just losing the material body, right? In the context of the soul. But think of the real reason a human life is there for us.
Mataji, not to go back to the Godhead.
Not to go back to Godhead. That's one way. But that is why human life is, because we'll be given many, many chances. We have to evolve. But the biggest fear a human being should have is, now that you're born as a human, to not be born as a human in the next life again. What if you're born as an animal or in the lower hellish planets where we don't have exposure to any Krishna consciousness? Right? Or we don't, does an animal sit and read Bhagavad Gita? Can an animal do that? Can they have discourses like this? Can they have access to this knowledge like we do now?
No,
So the
Mataji.
biggest fear for a human being should be to be not be born as a human being again, because we are so degraded in our current life that we are not even having a human life in the next life, right? Or to be born in hellish conditions where this kind of facilities is not there anymore. So that is the greatest kind of fear. And this verse is saying that anyone who's practicing Krishna consciousness, any small endeavor, there's no loss. And it also saves them from the greatest kind of fear. Okay. And the greatest kind of fear should be that, we live such a degraded life away from Krishna, forgetting Krishna, that, we don't even get an opportunity in our next life to serve Krishna again. So that should be the greatest kind of fear one should have. Not that, not go back to Goloka. Yes, it's not a one life effort to go back to Goloka. Okay. Some devotees feel that, this life I'm chanting whatever offenselessly or offensively, I'm doing my regulations. So my ticket to Goloka is confirmed this life. So let's not be so assured, because there's lot criteria that we have to consider. Right? What are those criterias? As we get to the end of chapter 2, Sthita Pragna, those qualities are explained very nicely. We'll talk about that as well. But the effort then should be, very progressively, we should keep continue putting effort to make Krishna the whole center of our life. Okay. And to work in such a way that we forget about our own personal loss or gain, right? Does this action give me any profit or loss? No, that should not be our objective when we perform any actions for Krishna, right? You should be doing that activity because Krishna is pleased by that activity, right? That should be our only objective. Okay, let's read the next verse. Verse 41.
Harsh Tiwari Prabhu. Harsh
Is
Tiwari
Harsh
Prabhu.
Prabhu?
He's there.
Okay. Sonia
Okay, ma'am.
Mataji?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Go ahead.
व्यावसायत्मिक बुद्धिर एक है कुरु नंदन बहु शाख हे अनंतस्का बुद्धायो व्यावसायतनाम साइतनाम synonyms vyavsayatmika translation those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Purport.
Enough.
A strong
That should be all. Thank you, Prabhuji.
that by Krishna.
Okay, so in this verse 41, Krishna is now responding to the fifth reason why that Arjuna expressed. What was the fifth reason that Arjuna expressed? It was also mentioned in the beginning of chapter 2.
Indecision.
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 Should I fight, be conquered, or conquer them? Should be I, just surrender with all my weapons, give up all my weapons and just surrender? So he expressed so much indecision, right? So Krishna is responding to that question, the fifth question, indecision, in this verse. So Krishna is saying a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to a higher perfection of life called Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi, or Vyavasayatmika intelligence. Now, what is this verse Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi? What is Vyavasaya? What is the meaning of that word?
Business, Mataji.
Business mindedness.
Yes, business, right? Can you think of a great, good businessman in the current material times?
Tata,
Mukesh
Ambani.
Ambani's, yeah. Can you see
Tata.
how a business, Tatas, yes.
Yes.
Hmm. And what is common about all these great businessmen?
Hard work.
Hard work, okay.
Money minded.
Money-minded. So whatever ventures they see, they'll constantly think about how to make money out of this. Ambani, somebody said, his father, Dhirubhai Ambani, when he started his business, he started with something very small, grocery stores, something here, something there. Okay. But look at what they have achieved. Why? Because they're constantly looking out for ventures to make money. So they're very money minded, very focused. From grocery stores, we have electronic stores, we have OTT channels, internet supply, communications, TV channels, so many renewable energies, right? Even chemicals. They have got into so many footwear, yes, all these different ventures. Why? Because every prospect they see, is it profitable to me or not? Right? So that is Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi. So one focus attention on making, that is how a Vaishya is, a true Vaishya is, always thinking of how to make money. And Krishna is saying the same kind of focus, if one puts in Krishna, okay, the same kind of same determination, same focus, if you put on Krishna, whatever action we do, we are thinking, will this please Krishna, right? Then that becomes vyavasayatmika buddhi, right? Or superior intelligence. Krishna focus intelligence on consciousness of Krishna, right? So that is vyavasayatmika buddhi. So and in that state, in the vyavasayatmika buddhi, our only aim is to please Krishna, to be surrendered to Krishna. But this intelligence, so that is Krishna is saying, then you should work with that kind of intelligence, with the absolute resolute focus of surrendering to Krishna, right? So that way you can remove all your indecisions. But he's also saying that, O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched, right? How to understand that? That is a very important verse, right? So let's read this part. Harsh Prabhu, can you read this part?
Prabhu, you have to unmute yourself.
Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime when one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness. He need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Through team activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to material world or its objects. Now, many a times, many devotees or even non-devotees, we have a lot of family traditions, right? Sometimes we need to go to our village and there's some function, especially in my family tradition. There's some yearly custom of meeting, and then there's some kind of offering done to some lower forms of bhutas and ghosts. All that happens. I come from a coastal area of Karnataka, and all this is very rampant in those areas. I think even in Kerala or West Bengal, such traditions still exist, right? So even otherwise, there are other people who do some kind of traditions. For a devotee, then, should they follow such traditions which has come from the lower modes of material nature, which is tamasic in nature, like offering, cutting animals, offering as uh, you know uh, as an offering to some devi or devata. Srila Prabhupada is also talking about, lower principles like nationality, humanity. What do you understand by that? What is your understanding of that statement then?
Indian.
Yeah, that's what nationality. What does being an Indian mean? It's a lower principle. What do you think about it? Should I not fight for my nation?
We shall fight for our nation. We shall stand for our nation
Uh-huh.
at every stage.
Okay, but what does Srila Prabhupada mean in his purports then?
When it
Remember,
comes to when it comes to situation when we'll have to fight for the nation and we'll have to go against our family, even sometimes, if we saw the Russia case, Russia and Ukraine, there are incidents happen when many Nepali students have come to Russia and Ukraine for job, but they'll have gone in army. Some Nepali students have gone in Russian army and some Nepali students have gone in
let's
Ukraine
talk in
army.
context of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm in talking. So this
Okay.
happened when they started work for them, and many Nepali students were brothers actually. And when it comes to the nation, because now they'll have to do their work, and the work comes first, according to Krishna said, "Karm kare jao, phal ki chinta mat karo." When it comes to they'll have to fight, whether at any condition. There is no option for them because they'll have taken.
But what you're saying is a little contrast to what Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport. Maybe you didn't read the purport clearly. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he did not act in relation to material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. That's what Srila Prabhupada is saying. But what you're
Krishna
saying
will
is one should act in relations to material world.
Being in Krishna consciousness means Krishna will take care of the rest of the work. We don't need to anything except focus on being in the consciousness as such.
Yeah.
We don't need to do anything. Krishna will do the rest.
So we should understand this from a concept of the soul, right? When you're responding and trying to understand this purport. We are born in this nation today, in this universe, in this nation, and then we call ourselves Indian, right? And then Pakistan becomes our enemy because we are born in India. But next life, let's say we are born in Pakistan, then what? India becomes our enemy?
Yes, Mataji.
Right? But the soul has gone through billions and billions and billions of lives so far. It's born in not just this universe, it can be born in any universe, in any, billions of universes Krishna has created. It can be. So, what really is the nation of this soul then? Remember the pastime of Chitraketu that we discussed in the last class. When Chitraketu's son was killed and Narada Muni called the soul back and said, your parents are grieving for your loss. Do you want to come back to the body? The soul said, which life parents are this? Though the child has just passed away because of poisoning, the soul comes back and says, which life parents are these? I have billions and billions of parents. So why are they grieving for someone who gave them so much grievance? Right? So the soul is not even connected to their to the previous life parents. So why would the soul be connected to a country or a nation? The soul is universal and global, and inter global or inter universal, as you call it. It has no identity of a nation, or it doesn't have identity of I'm being a Hindu or I'm being a Christian. Right? It has no such identity. The true identity of a soul is the servant of the Supreme Lord. And that is the only relation we should be true to. Right? This can further be understood. There was So Krishna and or Srila Prabhupada is saying there are principles that we need to follow. Of course, like Harsh Prabhu said, now that we have a material body, there are certain principles that we need to follow, like being loyal to a country. That is a principle that we need to follow, though but higher than that principle is spiritual principles. Okay, so there'll be higher principle and then some lower principle depending on the kind of body you're born in, the kind of nation you're born in. Of course, when you're born with a female body, you cannot act like a man everywhere. So there are lower principles to follow as well, depending on the kind of material body you have. But the higher principle is always spiritual. Right? How to further understand this? Like I was talking about, sacrifices, family traditions, cutting an animal. These things happen. But even in those contexts, we should understand that a Vaishnava participating in those kind of principles, the sins incurred are much higher than maybe a person of a lower varna, like a Shudra or a Vaishya. If they participate in such animal sacrifices, they may not incur as much sin as a Vaishnava who studied the literatures, who understands the Shastras. If they also go through the same kind of activities, then the sin incurred is much higher. There's a particular pastime of Yudhishthira and Dhritarashtra. It was a time when Dhritarashtra was still the ruler, okay, and his sons Duryodhana and Yudhishthira, they were two possible contenders to be the next crown princes. So there was a particular case where 4 people were arrested for killing a man. Okay, so they killed a man. For some reason, maybe he took a big loan from each of them, cheated them. So all of them came together. They killed this man, and they were arrested, and they were brought to the court of Dhritarashtra. Now, Dhritarashtra was just about to rule a judgment on this case, and Vidura suggested, "Why don't you ask individually, Duryodhana and Yudhishthira? Let them also give their sides on what should be the best judgment for each of them." So Duryodhana stated different shastras, artha shastras. He said this man has killed, and hence, as per shastras, he is eligible to be punished by death. And he quoted shastras and said, this is the reason why he should be killed. So everyone, because he quoted shastras, everyone said, yes, good job. This is a perfect judgment. All 4 of them should be killed. Now, even Dhritarashtra agreed. He appreciated his son giving such wise decisions. So he also appreciated. Now, and he was about to execute all 4. Just then, Vidura stopped and said, even Yudhishthira is there. Why don't you ask him as well on what is the best judgment for this man? So, the same question was asked to Yudhishthira. So Yudhishthira said, before I give my decision, I need to know which varna each of these person belongs to. So one person said, I'm a Brahmana. One said Kshatriya. One said Vaishya. One said Shudra. So Yudhishthira said, okay, for the Shudra person then, he can have a few months of jail and then he can be released. And for a Vaishya, he can have up to 1 year of jail and then he can be released. And then further Kshatriya, he should be given at least 20 years of jail time, hard labor jail time. And for a Brahmana, since I'm a Kshatriya, and Brahmana is supposed to be higher than a Kshatriya. So I can't pass a judgment. So I'll request Kripacharya to pass a judgment for the Brahmana. So the context of this judgment by Yudhishthira, in other words, is because Shudras, okay, the four Varnas, the Shudra is the lowest class. He's not expected to learn the Shastras. He's not expected to know what's a wrong or a right thing. So for such a person to perform sinful activities, the reactions will be lesser. There will be reactions, but it will not be as intense. And a Vaishya, he'll know some level of Dharma Shastra. He would have studied something to execute his business. So he has little more knowledge than a Shudra. So his punishment will be a little higher because he's a little more knowledgeable than a Shudra. Then for a Kshatriya and a Brahmana, these are the educated class. Right? They would have read the Shastras, no, though a Kshatriya may not have read the Shastras as eloquently as that of a Brahmana, he still knows the Shastras, what is right and wrong, what is spiritual knowledge, what is higher science. Okay? So for him, the punishment is far higher than that of a Vaishya. Vaishya got a year and a Kshatriya got about many years, much higher punishment. And for a Brahmana, of course, the punishment is going to be even more severe, right? Because Brahmana is supposed to be educated. He's supposed to know the reactions of certain actions versus not, right? So taking certain extreme actions, there's different reactions, and the reactions will depend on what kind of personality you are. Now, there's a fourth class, the Vaishnava class. Now, a Vaishnava is even higher than a Brahmana. Brahmanas, they dwell mostly into Vedas. They study what is good materially, what puja to do, what karmas to perform. They study, but a Vaishnava is, even higher than that of a Brahmana because their whole focus is just on Krishna. Right? So being a Vaishnava, reading Bhagavad Gita, understanding the position of a soul, understanding what Krishna desires from each of us, if we are still engaging in sinful activities or, material, low modes of action, in activities that direct us in tamoguna further and further, then your family might participate in the same kind of animal sacrifice. But if they are in lower qualities of varna, their sinful reaction is going to be far lesser than you or I participating in same kind of sacrifice, right? Being a Vaishnava, if you're still participating in these kind of animal sacrifices, non-veg, eating meat, and all this, the reaction is going to be much more intense. So that is that's a prescription of the Shastras as well, that the intelligence and how is the intelligence of those who are irresolute in many branch, because a person who's not fixed in Krishna consciousness, for them, they are like a devotee would actively look for reasons to surrender to Krishna, but a non-devotee or people who pretend to be devotees, they'll actively look for reasons to not surrender to Krishna. The smallest of disturbance in their life, somebody was disrespectful to them, or they somebody told some harsh words to them, or did not offer them the shataris, or ask them to move back or make space, whatever little a bit of harsh things, they look for reasons like this and say devotees are not compassionate, they are not kind, I'll not come to the temple anymore, right? For them, the intelligence will give them reasons to go away from Krishna. So their intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branch. So we should understand that if you're chanting and you're not getting interest in the chanting, because your intelligence is irresolute and has many branches of distraction, right? So that's how we understand this verse. Just give me a second. Let's read verse 42 and 43, two people.
Sindhu Mataji.
Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipashchita vedavadartha partha nanyadastiti vadinaha kamatmanaha swargapara janma karma falapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati. Translation: Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna is defining how do the irresolute men behave. Okay, he's saying their knowledge is attached to the flowery words of the Vedas. Now, even in Vedas, remember Vedas deal with various topics. Okay, the scope of Vedas, right from Karma Kanda to all the way to moksha and achieving Bhagwan, it can deal with all the range of topics. So Krishna is speaking about the particular section of Vedas that deal with Karma Kanda. Okay, and now Karma Kanda, what it means, it gives you certain yagnas, certain mantras. It tells you, do this, please this demigod, you will achieve this. Right, so there are sections of the Veda that also cater to such desires. It will tell you how to achieve heavenly planets, or how to get success, how to please, how to have more opulence in life. So all these kind of things also is dealt in Vedas, but it's a small part of the Vedas. We should remember that. Okay, it's not the whole Vedas are just telling you do this and please this demigod. There are sections of Vedas that deal with more serious topic of spiritual realization, but Krishna is specifically telling there are this section also, and people who are of irresolute nature, who do not have the resolute intelligence, they are attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, right? And how are they attached? They are looking for this what to do for their own sense gratification. They're not thinking about how to please Krishna. They're thinking of how to please themselves, how to get more opulence in life, how to be more famous. They're looking for all these things, right? So they are trying to please themselves, and for them, being desire of sense gratification in opulent life, they say there's nothing more than this. Okay, so we should remember that there are many things that Vedas say in the Karma Kanda section. It will tell you that offer prayer to Ganesha, you'll get knowledge, intelligence. Offer prayers to Kartikeya, you'll get strength. Or Shiva and Parvati, if you pray to them, then you'll get good husband or wife. So things like this, right? So it will offer you some benefit in exchange for that prayer to that demigod. So the knowledge of the Vedas, like I said, it deals with this aspect also, and then deals with other aspects also. So does that mean that as a Vaishnava, what do you think about this? As a Vaishnava, should we pray to demigods, or should we should not
No,
pray to demigods?
no, we should not. Like we should respect them. That is different, but not brave to them. For some, we like they all are parts of God only. They are different parts of God. So Lord Krishna. So direct, we should worship Krishna when we can.
Yeah, we all know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, so we're offering prayers to the Lord as well. But should we not pray to the demigods? Like we pray to Lord Shiva, right? He is a Supreme Vaishnava. We pray to Shiva.
And
We can
Mataji,
pray, Mataji, but we should ask to give more devotion for Krishna.
That's the right answer I'm looking for, right? So the mood of the Vaishnava, it's not that we don't pray to God. Remember, like Sonia Mataji said, even these demigods are various delegates of the Lord. Though they come in the material planets itself, Swargaloka is part of the material planet. So, but they are still delegates assigned by the Lord to manage this universe. Right. So it's like you may not have access to the prime minister directly, but there will be some ministers here and there. But we should when we are trying to pray to this demigod, the mood of a Vaishnava is very important, right? We pray for Krishna bhakti. So whichever demigod we pray for Krishna. It's not that I want this, that, my son should pass in this exam, or this should happen. No, we don't pray for ourselves. We pray that Krishna, that we get more bhakti. Imagine everyone goes to Ganesha praying for, give me success, give me knowledge. But what if we go to Ganesha and pray that, give me knowledge to understand your Shastras? Because Ganesha is one of the authors of the of Mahabharata and such literatures. So if we pray to Ganesha with that mood, saying, you are so knowledgeable in all the Shastras, give us some understanding so that we can understand Krishna better, right? If you pray with that mood, or you pray to Kartikeya saying, there's Skanda Purana, which explains so nicely different activities of Skanda as a devotee of the Lord. So what if we pray to Skanda or Kartikeya that make me a devotee of the Lord as good as you, right? Or we pray to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is worshipable in the Vaishnava community. He is known as the best of all Vaishnavas. Even in Vrindavan, we have um, uh, Gopeshwar Mahadev that we pray to, right? So he is also worshipable. Shiva is also worshipable, but we don't pray for ourselves, right? We don't pray for our material benefits. But so it does not mean that, if you have a temple close to your house, or if your whole family has gone on a picnic to visit a Shiva temple, it's not that, you will stand outside and make a fuss saying, no, I don't enter such temples. No, we enter, we offer our respects, right? But we pray in the right mood, right? And remember, Srila Prabhupada, institutionally, he did not recommend, we only have avatars of Krishna in our temple. He did not institutionally recommend that, we have demigods in our temple. Why? Because he understood the mentality of Indians. It will start with a small Vigraha of Ganesha in one corner. Slowly, Vigraha of Ganesha will come Shiva, Parvati. And then from another corner, we'll have Kartikeya. So, in other words, in future, understanding the mentality of people, he said, in future, if we allow demigod worship in the temple, then maybe in future it'll become like another Mayavadi temple with many devotees, and Krishna will be in another corner then, and we do some small thing. So he didn't want to promote that kind of propensity. But there's no harm in worshipping demigods, but we should be very careful on what we are asking for and in what mood we are asking these questions, praying to these demigods. So, since, in other words, since Krishna, but of course, before I end that topic, so like I was saying, demigod worship is fine, but we don't pray to, participate in any kind of bhakti which is more in tamoguna, like offering sacrifices, offering animal sacrifice. Don't participate in them, because that will give you a lot of sins. And also, when you go to these different temples, be careful that maybe you don't accept prasadam. You can offer some fruits to the Lord, but don't really accept prasadam, especially if there's got onion, garlic, or depending on which mood they have offered this prasadam to the Lord. What is your mood to Krishna? If you understand all that, then okay, you can accept. But if there's some doubt that, they may not have considered the right mood when making these offerings, then we should avoid accepting that prasadam. So in other words, since coming back to the verse, so Krishna had, since Arjuna had expressed his indecision to fight earlier, Krishna is now saying the root cause of anybody not wanting to fight is their interest in Bhoga and Aishwarya. Okay, what is this Bhoga and Aishwarya is something that we'll understand in the next verse as well. Let's read the verse 44.
Tasha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. भोगैश्वर्यप्रसक्तानां तया अपहृता चेतसां व्यवसाय आत्मिका बुद्धिः samadhau na vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Can you continue reading the purport, Mataji?
Yes. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, Nirukti says Samayag adhiyate smin atma tattva yatham mayam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Hare
Mm.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here Krishna is saying for people who are too attached by Bhoga and Aishwarya. Aishwarya, we know that, wealth. Aishwarya means wealth. A big house, big car, bank balance. That is all, Aishwarya. Now, what is Bhoga then? Bhoga is said to be here as material enjoyment, right? So are these different, Bhoga and Aishwarya? What is your understanding of Bhoga?
Bhoga,
Bogus.
to consume, I guess. So we consume or we uh, use this material wealth for our enjoyment, for
Hmm.
fulfilling our desires. That
But
is
that is still
Bhoga.
Aishwarya,
Uh,
right? We earn to enjoy. So that still comes in the prospect of Aishwarya. What is
Mataji,
Bhoga? Hmm.
Aishwarya is more for
It's
like
material
Mataji,
luxuries,
material
offering
engagement,
something,
like
offering
Hmm.
something to gain something back in return.
For material enjoyment,
Oh,
yeah.
material, yeah.
But Bhoga is um, it's a little too deep in meaning, right? So yes, one is like Sonia Mataji mentioned, we try to enjoy material things around us. Then we do things for material enjoyment, sense gratification. That is Bhoga. But Bhoga can also be at a mental level, right? Because when even as devotees, non-devotees might be doing things openly to say, I finished this project. We openly proclaim because that's the way of the material world. We have to advertise what we do, and in that way we can get our promotions on time. We can get our recognitions, and people around us will pitch us for new projects in future. So material world will people will do it openly, that they openly go and advertise what they're doing, but it's happening in the devotee circles as well, right? Bhoga could be someone want they might want to get appreciation within the devotee circles. They will go and say, I made this donation to this person and Vaishnava, or this school, or I made this donation to a temple. And why are they going and claiming that I did this or did that? Because they want people to recognize. It's not enough that they did a donation or did some seva. They also want the people to around them to know them, that they did this, and in that way they want to get some kind of recognition, some kind of appreciation. They want people to note them, that they are elevated devotees. I do 16 rounds, and sometimes I do 64 rounds if on certain days. We don't really have to go and tell anyone how many rounds we do, what are the services we do, what are the charity we do. That is something between Krishna and you, right? But if you're seeking some kind of recognition, some appreciation for things that you have done, right? And if you're done like a good amount of book distribution, then and if they didn't even mention your name in the temple, that this person did so much book distribution or did some big donation, and there was no mention that, then then maybe these people will not be very happy. So sometimes even Bhoga and Aishwarya are done for some kind of praise or recognition. So Krishna is saying that even after one advances in Krishna consciousness, this Bhoga and Aishwarya can continue affecting us. They can continue infecting us, right? So we should be very careful. So those attached to Bhoga and Aishwarya, even if you're doing 16 rounds, following four regulatory principles, still this infection of Bhoga and Aishwarya can continue tormenting us, right? Because we still want some kind of recognition. So these people, they'll look up, they'll look for reasons to give up on Krishna if they are not given the right kind of appreciation, or they're not given right kind of respect. So one day they are very resolute to serve Krishna. And another day they'll be like a deflated balloon, that this person didn't speak to me properly. This person, criticized me openly. So they'll be like a deflated balloon ready to give Krishna conscious up, right? Why is that? Because of their attachment to Bhoga and Aishwarya. Okay, so we should be very careful about this Bhoga Aishwarya. So Krishna is saying anyone who is Bhoga Aishwarya prasaktanam taya paharata chetasam. Chetasam is mind. So their mind gets bewildered by Bhoga and Aishwarya. And for them, the resolute determination to surrender, Vyavasayatmika buddhihi, will never happen, does not take place. Okay, so this is how you understand this verse. So further, Krishna is talking about samadhi, the fixing the mind. So Krishna is saying when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Let's read verse 45.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Traiya Vishya Veda Nisraidunyadarvina Nirbandham Yogakshema Atman. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So this word niryoga kshema. Niryoga kshema means free from ideas of gain and protection. So further in the next few chapters, Krishna will say at some stage, he will take control of your life. That's the ultimate stage of liberation. But to attain that stage where Krishna is taking control of your life, before that, you should achieve the stage of niryoga kshema, where you stop considering putting yourself as a priority, right? Where you become free from the idea of gain and protection. So what happens? Krishna is saying if if you reach that stage, so we should not contemplate often that, if I do this, what is the gain, what is the loss? This kind of action in Krishna consciousness, will I get some recognition? How many times, many a times we have this discussion of creating a balance between material and spiritual life, right? But is a balance really possible? Because material life is Maya, right? When we are living a material life, thinking about sense gratification, that is Maya taking control. And when we are living a spiritual life, then Krishna is taking control. And like we have read everywhere, wherever Krishna is there, there is no darkness, there's no ignorance, right? So there is no concept of balance in material life and spiritual life. It's only spiritual life, right? Only when you surrender to a point where you don't want anything material to digress you from Krishna, then Krishna will take control. And that is when your spiritual life becomes very pure, like the epitome of spiritual life, right? But we are in different stages of material life and surrender to Krishna. So we'll have to simultaneously manage our material life and spiritual life as well. But understand that if you don't feel that kind of desperation that I want to surrender everything for Krishna, I don't want anything to do for my material. If you don't have that kind of, synergy within you or that confidence and urge within you, then we are still surrendered to Maya at some level, right? But if you're, but it's understood that for many devotees, we manage our material life as well. We have family, we need to manage them. Then there are material aspects that we need to take care of, like our future, our investment. All these things also come into play. But we should perform these activities in a way that all our activities are dovetailed to Krishna. As a grahastha, we all have to earn, we all have to save, right? We have to take care of our parents, our children. Then how do we then become, become spiritual while performing all these familial activities? Then, for example, if you're a parent, then you're while you're earning is like a side duty, we'll have to do it. But the main responsibility of a parent is to make sure their child is growing in Krishna consciousness. The child is aware of Krishna, is aware of, this is a way to live a life versus not live a life. Right? Many a days, these today's children don't even know anything, any kathas of Krishna. They don't know anything. Who is Pandavas? Who is what is the difference between Ramayana and Mahabharata? The children are not even exposed to that kind of knowledge. Right? Thankfully, there are few devotee parents are still taking the children to that kind of endeavor to educate them about Krishna and life overall. But if you work with this awareness that, your salary, your house, your wealth is all a gift of Krishna, nothing belongs to you. Right? Everything that you have is a gift of Krishna. So it's not that, while you're earning your salary, you forget everything about Krishna. Right? So use that money that Krishna has given you to travel to dhams. Take your family to dhams, or you can donate to some temples. And if it's not that, everything that you've donated to temple belongs to Krishna and the rest of the money belongs to me. The rest of the money that you have kept behind is also Krishna's money. Remember that. So you'll have to use that money very in the service of Krishna. Right? You should have to use it such that, you're spending it on nice flowers every day for Krishna. You're decorating Krishna nicely. You're keeping your house clean. Right? There's no, remember, you're not the owner of the house, your house. Krishna is the owner of your house. Right? So your house should be always clean. There should not be, vessels stacked up in the kitchen. Cockroaches are running around. All this should be avoided if you can. And between couples in the family, the members of the family shouting loudly, fighting with each other, that all is behavior that we should avoid. Imagine you're living in a owner's house. You're serving the owner. Would you openly start a fight with your family or people around? No, because we don't want to disturb the owner. Right? So Krishna is the owner of the house. We should serve Krishna in that mood that he is the real owner of the house and you're living there. Right? Remember the concept of Alakshmi that we discussed. There's Lakshmi and Alakshmi. Wherever there's Lakshmi, Lakshmi serves only Narayana, right? While Alakshmi serves uh, Kala or Kali, sorry. So Alakshmi comes wherever there's fights, open fights, unhygienic conditions, where Krishna is not put in a superior position. Alakshmi comes there. You might have wealth, but that wealth will get used in all the unnecessary expenses, hospital, all the things that keep irritating you. All your money will get spent. Then nothing stays because you're not engaging the money in serving Krishna. But when you're serving Krishna very nicely, that's when Lakshmi stays back. If Krishna is not served, Lakshmi does not stay in that house. So you should serve Krishna in such a way that even Lakshmi wants to stay back in your house. So anything we eat, we offer to Krishna. So in other words, this verse is reminding us that, the Vedas, they might the karma kanda version of the section of the Vedas, they entangle us further in the three modes of material nature. When you're doing things, this to please this demigod, do this, do that, those things are further entangling us in material nature. But so Krishna is telling Arjuna to become transcendental, emerge above the three modes. And what are these? He's saying, be free from dualities. What are these dualities? So dualities mean sometimes we get respect, sometimes we get disrespect, sometimes we are happy, unhappy. So sometimes we say Krishna is so merciful. He when some things work out in our favor, we say Krishna is so merciful. Then again, when some things don't work out in our favor, does that mean Krishna is not merciful anymore? What do you think? Right? Sometimes we go through illness or some extreme situations in life. There are people, some close people might pass away in our family. So does that mean Krishna is not merciful anymore?
There's a bigger picture behind it.
Yes. Right? Does everyone agree with that? Is sometimes Krishna maybe is unmerciful,
To get stronger.
stronger? Why? How does Krishna? Uh, how does it bother Krishna whether you're strong or weak?
No, not in physical way, Mataji, because you learn a lot of lessons and you grow up from there. That's what I mean.
You mean mentally more determined to surrender to Krishna or something like that, or mentally more stronger to endeavor all these situations? What did you mean?
Both, Mataji. When you're strong and you grow up, you more focused on you understand everything else is just material attachment. The only reality is Krishna.
Yeah, yeah. So Krishna, we should remember, is not, like a strict. He's not trying to be, punish one intentionally in that sense. Krishna is still merciful. Imagine you lost some money in online scam, right? Maybe, in some life you have scammed these people who are scamming you today. You have taken their money in, and this reaction that you're seeing is a reaction of that, right? So these reactions must be cleared. If our heart has to be cleared, right, only then it becomes easy for us to accept Krishna consciousness. But we have this whole pile of sins from our past life, and things are not getting cleared, so we're going through certain reactions. And if you're not a devotee of Krishna, then we just have to let material nature take over, and she will handle all the reactions. But if you're a devotee of Krishna, then Krishna takes care of all these reactions. So these reactions we see, whether it's good or bad, it is also a mercy of Krishna to clear our heart, to clear the pile of sins that we have accumulated over many, many lives. But and Krishna is saying then we should be free of all these dualities of, things are happy, not happy. Krishna is merciful because he's helped me now, or not merciful. Remove all these kind of dualities and attain a pure state of spiritual understanding, right? Be established in self, understand that all these why the Vedas deal with these fruitive actions. We should understand that because many Puranas they'll tell that, offer this kind of meat to the law to a devi. You can do this sacrifice midnight. You can do this, or even alcohol to some certain devatas. So these karma kanda section of the Vedas, in other words, look, in our material world today, everyone is eating non-veg without any restrictions. So in that case, then Veda is telling, if you want to eat non-veg, at least do these things. Offer it to a devi and then you can consume it, right? And you have to do the sacrifice in the midnight. So it's for materialistic people, the Karmakanda section of the Vedas is giving a way for them to enjoy these material things, but with many restrictions, right? So in other words, it's telling you that if you want to do this, and then you can enjoy the material, meat. So maybe a person who's not too interested in eating meat, they'll say, why go through all this trouble? I'll stop eating meat altogether, right? But our situation today is much worse. People eat meat with no consideration of offering to devis and devatas, so they're getting sins without any restraint. However, if they had followed the Vedas and offered it to the devi and then had the non-veg or meat, then the sins would be lesser, right? There is sins, but lesser amount of sins. So that is what the Vedas are doing. It's trying to gradually digress them from sinful ways so that they can eventually evolve to Krishna consciousness, right? So that's the intent of the Vedas. But the another aspect of dealing, like in a de-addiction camp, right? Let's say there's a person who's admitted to a de-addiction drug camp. So the way they deal with de-addiction is that it's not that they gradually reduce their drug and then remove them from drugs. They stop the drug, whatever the drug the addict was using, they stop giving it to him completely from day one, like cold turkey. And then the person just has to get used to the situation of of not getting or consuming their drugs. So a Krishna conscious movement is like that. It's like a de-addiction camp. So in ISKCON we tell, okay, stop non-veg, stop meat eating, gambling and all these activities from day one. Don't even deal with it. So then people try to figure their life around all these regulations, right? People will still survive. There are so many devotees who have stopped drinking tea, coffee, alcohol, non-veg, and they're still living a very settled life. So in other words, ISKCON is like a de-addiction camp, right? It's not like the Vedas gradually renounce something. It's like a instant renunciation. So that's how Krishna consciousness is different from how Vedas deal with it. Okay, so for devotees of Krishna, you don't need to follow these karma kanda activities of the Vedas, is what Krishna is saying. Uh, so other way for better then is to follow bhakti yoga and completely surrender in the direct service of Krishna. That's a better way to surrender to Krishna. Are there any questions for anything that we have discussed so far? If not, we'll go on to next few verses if there's no questions. Okay, let's read verse 46.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
यवनार्थ उदापाने सर्वदा संप्लुतोदके तवन सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्रह्माणस्य विजानतः. Translation: all purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So, knowing the purpose of the Veda, you can understand that all purposes served by a small well can be served by a big reservoir as well. So here in the purport, the rituals and sacrifice mentioned in the Karma Kanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. This is just what we discussed a bit a while ago. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of studying the Veda is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's relation with Krishna. Okay, so this is the reason why Vedas are still important, because eventually one will progress to eventually knowing Krishna. And remember, this Vedas was written by none other than Veda Vyasa. So he has very mercifully written the Vedas to reduce our material attachment, to reduce our material entanglement. So if you are anyway eating meat, then eat by offering to Mother Kali, right? So ultimate purpose of Vedas is bhakti, know and worship the one supreme Lord Krishna, who's the knower and compiler of all the Vedas. So that's the ultimate purpose of all the Vedas. Okay. And further, just give me a second. The
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. And give me a second. Read this part, Sita Mataji.
Yeah, it requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool and thus asked him to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna. And the highest Vedantist is a great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So remember that Lord Chaitanya was back in his days known as the scholar of the top order. Like many people used to come to learn from him, and he used to have debates with various scholars and defeat them. So for him to say that when Prakashananda Saraswati, who is a Mayavadi sannyasi, he was very impressed by Lord Chaitanya, and he wanted to, in fact, initiate Lord Chaitanya as a sannyasi in Mayavada sect. So he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asked him, why don't you start studying the Vedantas instead of always chanting and dancing around with devotees, doing Nama Sankirtana? Why don't you come and study Vedantas under me? And Lord Chaitanya said, no, my spiritual master knew that I'm a great fool. And he has told that the only thing I need to do is only to chant the holy name of the Lord. This is coming from a person who is a well-known scholar. For him to say that, I don't need to study any Vedantas because I just simply need to follow my spiritual master. My spiritual master has given me these orders, then I simply need to follow. I may not understand why the spiritual master has given me this order, but following the spiritual master is all I need to do to exist or survive this Kali Yuga. Right. So for this age of Kali Yuga, trying to follow the Karma Kanda activities, it's like a never ending well, right? A big water reservoir. We can do all these million activities to get liberation. But better than that is to simply chant the holy name. So by simply surrendering to Krishna, or then all the purposes of the Vedas are served in that way. In other ways, Srila Prabhupada gives this analogy quite often. He says, if you want to water the tree, you don't have to individually go to every leaf, every branch, every stem and water it. You simply have to water the root of the tree, and the whole tree gets watered, right? So similarly, to please Krishna, Nama Sankirtana is everything, is only thing that we need to do. You don't have to study all these Vedas, Vedantas, Bhagavad Gita we can study, but we don't need to do all these detailed research on, different four Vedas, 108 Upanishads. We don't need to do all that. Okay. Even if you can't read anything, just Nama Sankirtana is all that we need to do as recommended by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for Kali Yuga. So, we don't need to follow anything in Karma Kanda. Simply follow the spiritual master who is part of the Guru Parampara and follow their instructions without any duality of, whether this activity will give me loss, fame, infamy, nothing. Just follow it. Okay. And when Krishna gives, yeah, remember that, your family, everything, extended family, they'll come to you when there's a lot of fame, lot of recognition. Well, they'll come to you, seek advice, be very happy with you. But the moment Krishna removes all that money, all this family will leave you just like that, right? You don't. So in that context, then we should not. We should remember that we should not be living to please our family alone. We should live to please Krishna, right? So pleasing Krishna is all we need to do, because he'll take care of us after that. If Krishna is pleased, our life is successful. So the whole purpose of the whole big reservoir of water can be served by a small well as well, which is exactly what this purport means. But just you can follow the whole Vedas and do the 1,000 different things Vedas say, or you just chant the holy name, and that can also do the same purpose. Okay, so with that, with verse 47, we'll end for today. If there's any questions for the day, we can take it up now.
Text 47. Karmanivadikar. Sorry, Mata.
No, just give me a second. I'm just saying we should do 47. No, we'll stop at 46. Sorry. Sorry, we'll continue next week. Okay.
On Wednesday, Mataji.
Wednesday, sorry. Are there any questions? Everything clear? Why is nobody on videos today? I hope this class gives you enough content to contemplate on, and it's not just something you listen and forget after class. We do put a lot of effort to bring in all these summarized concept of Bhagavad Gita. So even if you didn't understand, make a point to go back to the recording, listen to the recording. So that's a good way to fill up your head with all these questions. right? Fill up your head with questions, because chapter 2 is a good place to think of all the questions you have spiritually, because the rest of the Bhagavad Gita chapters will answer them one by one, just like Krishna is answering every question of Arjuna through different chapters. So it's a good place. Don't just mechanically listen, exit, forget, and then come back next class, listen again, because that's the worst way of learning spiritual knowledge. It has to be, anything that you learn has to be realized and applied. Otherwise, it's a big waste of time just listening to classes and not applying any of that, right? Jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namaha. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna.
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna to
Dandavat
all
Pranam.
devotees
Hare
assembled
Krishna
here. Hare
Mataji,
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
Pranam.
Krishna
All
Mataji,
glories
Dandavat
to all devotees.
Pranams.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
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 Krishna.
Krishna Mataji.
Thank you very
Krishna
much.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna
Dandavat Pranam.
Mataji.
Closing the call for everyone. Dandavat Pranam.